The arrival. The crystalline spires of Acalia gleamed under the twin suns of Proxima Centauri II, casting prismatic shadows across the sprawling campus grounds. For 8 centuries, this institution had stood as the galaxy's most prestigious center of learning, accepting only the brightest minds from the most advanced civilizations in the known universe. Species that had mastered interstellar travel, harnessed the power of stars, or unlocked the secrets of dimensional manipulation, sent their most promising youth to study among the elite. Maya Chen clutched her small duffel bag tighter as the transport pod descended toward the Academy's main landing platform. Her stomach knotted with a mixture of excitement and terror. At 17, she was not only the youngest student ever admitted, but also the first and only human. Earth had only achieved rudimentary interplanetary travel within its own solar system, nowhere near the technological advancement of the other civilizations represented here. Arrival at Academic Central Platform. Please prepare for atmospheric adjustment, announced the transport's AI in a melodic voice. Maya took a deep breath as the pod doors hissed open, revealing the alien world that would be her home for the next 3 years. The gravity felt slightly stronger than Earth's, making her first steps awkward and heavy. The air carried unfamiliar scents, something like cinnamon mixed with ozone and sea salt. A tall, willowy being with iridescent skin approached. The translator embedded behind Maya's ear activated automatically. Human Maya Chen. I am Administrator Vex Lori, 3rd rank. Your admission remains controversial. The being's large, compound eyes scrutinized her with undisguised skepticism. Follow me to processing. Maya straightened her shoulders and followed, trying to ignore the stares from the diverse array of beings crossing the central plaza. Some had too many limbs, others too few. Some floated rather than walked. One group appeared to be composed entirely of swirling mist contained within transparent exoskeletons. The Quarthy delegation protested your presence, Vexillori continued as they entered a towering structure of living crystal. They believe humans are too primitive for meaningful contribution. The Helvans question your species' ethical capacity, given your planetary history. With respect, Administrator, Maya replied, choosing her words carefully. Humanity's history contains both darkness and light. Like any species, our progress may seem slow by galactic standards, but we learn quickly. Vexillori made a sound that might have been a scoff. Your admission was forced by the diversity mandate. Nothing more. The mandate requires representation from emerging intelligences, regardless of their development stage. They arrived at a processing chamber where various scanners mapped Maya's biology and cognitive patterns. The machines hummed and chirped, occasionally making alarm sounds that caused the technicians to exchange meaningful glances. Your neural architecture is unusually chaotic, remarked a bulbous technician with tentacled appendages. Most evolved species develop more ordered thought patterns. Perhaps this explains humanity's erratic progress, another technician muttered, not bothering to lower their voice. Maya bit her tongue. She'd expected prejudice, but hadn't anticipated how blatant it would be. She reminded herself why she was here, not just for herself, but for all of humanity. Earth's admission to the Galactic Confederation hinged partly on her performance. After processing, Maya was escorted to her dormitory, a spherical chamber designed to accommodate multiple environmental requirements. Her 3 roommates were already there. Zix, a crystalline being from the silicon-based Tholian collective. Embra, a vaguely humanoid entity with skin that shifted colors like an octopus. And Krill, a small furry creature with enormous eyes who communicated through a combination of chirps and telepathy. So they really did admit a human. Zix's voice resonated from their crystalline form. I thought it was just a rumor. How fragile you look, Embra observed, their skin rippling with patterns of curiosity and wariness. And so, wet. Krill simply stared at Maya with those massive eyes, a gentle probing sensation touching the edges of her mind before withdrawing quickly. Interesting, Krill chirped softly. Different. Maya set her bag on the only remaining sleep platform, clearly designed for a different physiology with its concave surface and strange, gel-like consistency. "I'm Maya Chen, from Earth," she said, forcing confidence into her voice. "And yes, I'm human, wet, fragile, and different. I'm also here to learn, just like you." The first week passed in a blur of disorientation. Maya struggled with the alien technology, the unfamiliar teaching methods, and the constant reminders of her species' primitive status. The curriculum was taught through direct neural interfaces that the other students used effortlessly, but which gave Maya blinding headaches. The concepts discussed in quantum relativity theory assumed knowledge that humanity wouldn't discover for centuries. In advanced biotechnology, the instructor, a collective consciousness housed in a swarm of insectoid drones, paused mid-lecture when Maya asked a question. "Human Chen, your species has not even mapped its own neural pathways completely. How can you hope to understand multidimensional bioengineering?" Laughter rippled through the chamber, a discordant mixture of sounds from dozens of different species. "Maybe I can't yet," Maya answered steadily, "but I'd like to try." The instructor hesitated, then continued the lesson, occasionally simplifying certain concepts when their gaze fell on Maya. It was in engineering principles that Maya finally found her footing. The class was working on designing a microstabilization field for delicate quantum structures, something that had applications across countless technologies. While the other students approached the problem with elegant mathematical solutions, Maya noticed something they'd overlooked. "Excuse me, Professor Nurim," she said, raising her hand. "I think there's a flaw in the foundational approach." The professor, a being composed of what looked like liquid mercury, shifted their form to focus attention on her. "Explain, Human Chen." Maya walked to the holographic display and highlighted a section of the design. "Everyone's assuming the quantum fluctuations need to be suppressed completely. But what if we work with them instead? On Earth, we build flexible structures in earthquake zones that move with the tremors rather than resisting them." A dismissive murmur ran through the class, but Professor Nurim expanded the section Maya had highlighted. "Continue," they said, their mercurial form rippling with interest. Maya explained her concept, using simple analogies from Earth: how bamboo bends with the wind rather than breaking, how water flows around obstacles it cannot move. As she spoke, the professor began to modify the design according to her suggestions, and the simulation results improved dramatically. "Fascinating," Professor Nurim said when she finished. "You've applied a primitive ecological observation to solve an advanced quantum engineering problem." There was a new tone in their voice, something approaching respect. "Perhaps the chaotic neural architecture of your species has advantages we had not considered." That evening, as Maya nursed another neural interface headache in her dormitory, Krill approached her and placed a small device on her temple. "For pain," the furry being chirped. "Your mind. Different but bright. Like nova in night sky." "Thank you," Maya said, feeling the headache recede almost instantly. Zix drifted closer, crystal facets glinting. "Your solution in engineering today was unconventional but effective." Perhaps Professor Vexlori was hasty in their assessment. Embra, whose skin had shifted to a contemplative blue pattern, added, "The diversity mandate exists for a reason. New perspectives have value." Maya smiled, feeling for the first time that she might actually belong here, not despite her humanity, but because of it. As the headache faded completely, she looked out through the dormitory's transparent ceiling at the unfamiliar stars and felt a surge of determination. This was just the beginning. She had so much to learn from them, but perhaps they had things to learn from her as well. This was just the beginning. She had so much to learn from them, but perhaps they had things to learn from her as well. The challenge. 2 months into her first term at Academia, Maya Chen had established an unexpected routine. While most students immersed themselves in the Academy's vast knowledge repositories during free periods, Maya could be found in the lesser-used Eastern Gardens, a place where the planet's native flora grew in carefully managed chaos. Here, beneath the shade of towering spiral trees, she found respite from the constant neural inputs and alien scrutiny. Today, she sat cross-legged on the purple moss, surrounded by her most unlikely of friend groups. "I still don't understand why you persist with manual note-taking," said Zix, their crystalline form refracting sunlight into tiny rainbows across Maya's notebook. "It's inefficient." Maya smiled, continuing to sketch a complex molecular structure by hand. "I think differently when I use my hands. Sometimes inefficiency has its own kind of value." Krill chittered agreement from where they hung upside down from a low branch. The small, furry being had become Maya's most loyal supporter, often acting as a buffer between her and the telepathic species who found human thoughts too chaotic to engage with comfortably. "The professors have noticed," Ember said, their skin shifting to a proud orange hue. "Your engineering innovation is still being discussed in faculty chambers." Their small group had recently expanded to include Devar, a gaseous entity who existed within a containment field and was ostracized by their own kind for their excessively solid thinking, and Leth, a hulking arthropoid whose species was known for warrior culture rather than academic prowess. "Most faculty still consider the human an aberration," Leth clicked, mandibles twitching. "A statistical error to be corrected." And yet came a new voice, melodious and fluid. She achieved the highest score in Professor Nurim's midterm evaluation. They all turned to see Talus, one of the Helvan students, approaching through the garden. The Helvans were among the most advanced species at the Academy, with a reputation for aloofness and intellectual superiority. Their bioluminescent, semi-translucent bodies housed multiple brain analogs, and they were known to view most other species as intellectually inadequate. Maya tensed. The Helvans had been particularly dismissive of humans, often citing Earth's ongoing climate struggles and resource conflicts as evidence of an inherently flawed species. "I did not mean to intrude," Talus said, their inner light pulsing in what Maya had learned was a gesture of polite deference. "I come with information. The Centennial Challenge has been announced." The group collectively straightened. The Centennial Challenge was Acaleidemia's most prestigious competition, held once every 100 years. Winners received not only academic recognition, but also the opportunity to present their work to the Galactic Confederation Council, exposure that could advance a species standing in interstellar politics. "The theme is sustainable transdimensional harmonics," Talus continued. "Teams of 6 will be allowed. I came to ask if—" Their luminescence flickered with what might have been embarrassment. "If your group has room for one more." The others exchanged surprised glances. A Helvan wanting to join their group of misfits was unprecedented. "Why us?" Devar's gaseous form swirled skeptically within their containment field. "Because you're different," Talus replied simply. The humans' approach to quantum stabilization demonstrated that traditional Helvan methodology would never have conceived such a solution. Maya studied the luminescent being. "You want to win." "Yes," Talus admitted, "but also, I am curious. About you. About all of you. My people value intellectual diversity in theory, but rarely practice it." After a brief discussion, they agreed to accept Talus into their team. That evening, they registered as Convergence Team 6 and received access to the challenge specifications, a project to develop a harmonizing technology that could stabilize interactions between parallel dimensional planes without causing entropic cascade. "This is beyond cutting edge," Embra murmured as they reviewed the requirements in their shared workroom. "It's theoretical even for the most advanced civilizations." "Then we'll have to be theoretical in new ways," Maya replied, already sketching ideas in her notebook. Her time at Acaleidemia had expanded her understanding of physics exponentially, but she still approached problems from a distinctly human perspective. News of their unusual team composition spread quickly through the Academy. Most regarded them with amusement or contempt, particularly when it became known that a human was part of the group. The prestigious Quarthy team, composed entirely of the insectoid hive mind species that had dominated the last 3 challenges, publicly dismissed them as a diversity experiment doomed to failure. The challenge spanned 3 intensive months of research, development, and testing. Each team was assigned laboratory space with access to advanced fabrication technology. As they delved deeper into the work, Maya found her human limitations both frustrating and occasionally advantageous. While she couldn't process information as quickly as her teammates, she often identified unconventional connections they overlooked. "What if we stopped trying to enforce stability at all?" she suggested during their 3rd week, as they struggled with persistent feedback loops in their prototype. "What if we create a system that learns and adapts to dimensional shifts instead of fighting against them?" Neural adaptive technology at a transdimensional scale. Talus's inner light pulsed with excitement. It's never been attempted, but theoretically. It combines Helvan neural mapping with Tholian crystalline matrix theory, Zix added, their facets glinting with new patterns. And Krill's species' understanding of telepathic fields could provide the sensing mechanism. Their project began to take shape, a revolutionary approach that incorporated aspects of all their diverse backgrounds. Divar's gaseous nature inspired a fluid dynamic information processing system. Leth contributed insights from warrior culture about strategic adaptation rather than brute force solutions. Embra's color-shifting skin inspired a mimetic interface that could match the frequency of different dimensional planes. But as their work progressed, strange things began happening in their lab. Equipment malfunctioned. Data disappeared. Promising test results became corrupted. "This isn't accidental," Leth declared after their 5th prototype mysteriously failed during a critical test. The arthropoid's compound eyes narrowed, scanning the lab suspiciously. "We're being sabotaged." An investigation revealed subtle tampering with their equipment, sophisticated enough that it had initially appeared as simple malfunction. When they reported it to Administrator Vex Lori, they were met with skepticism. "Perhaps you are simply encountering the natural limitations of your diverse team," the administrator suggested. "The Quarthy team has already advanced to Stage 3 testing without incident." Frustrated but undeterred, they implemented their own security measures. Leth established a rotation schedule so someone always monitored the lab. Talus created a bioluminescent verification system that would reveal any tampering. These precautions helped, but the sabotage became more targeted and sophisticated in response. "I don't understand why anyone would go to such lengths," Maya said one night as they worked late, rebuilding their prototype for the 3rd time. "It's just a competition." "It's more than that," Talus replied, their luminescence dimmed to a serious blue. "The Centennial Challenge winners gained significant influence. Some species, like the Quarthy, have built their galactic standing on consecutive victories. Your presence threatens the established order, Maya." "Mine. But I'm just one human." "A human whose mind works differently." Divar swirled thoughtfully in their containment field. "If your species proves valuable at this stage of development, it challenges assumptions about evolutionary progression and technological advancement. It also accelerates your species' potential inclusion in the Confederation," Embra added, skin patterns shifting to a contemplative purple. "Some would prefer humans remain isolated until you've outgrown your more violent tendencies." Maya was absorbing this when their prototype emitted a strange, pulsating hum, one they hadn't heard before. The monitoring equipment showed energy patterns fluctuating wildly. "That's not supposed to happen," Zix said, moving closer to inspect it. Krill suddenly let out a high-pitched warning chirp, small paws pulling at Maya's sleeve urgently. "Danger. Wrong vibration." Maya's human instincts kicked in, that gut feeling that had saved her ancestors from predators long before they developed advanced technology. "Everyone back," she shouted, pulling Zix away from the device just as it began to glow with an unnatural light. They retreated to the laboratory's entrance as the prototype's hum grew to a painful screech. Through the transparent containment field they'd erected around it, they could see space itself beginning to distort. "It's creating a dimensional rift," Talus exclaimed, inner light pulsing with alarm. But we didn't activate the primary sequence. Maya studied the readings on their monitoring equipment. These energy signatures, they're not random malfunction. Someone reprogrammed it specifically to create this reaction. The rift was growing, a spinning vortex of light and distorted space that began to strain against the containment field. The field won't hold it much longer, Duvar warned, their gaseous form condensing with stress. Leth's mandibles clicked rapidly, the arthropoid equivalent of swearing. If that rift fully opens in the middle of the academy, they didn't need to finish the thought. Uncontrolled dimensional rifts could cause catastrophic damage, tearing apart the fabric of local space-time, and possibly the entire planet. This isn't just sabotage anymore, Maya realized, a chill running down her spine. Someone's using our project to create a deliberate disaster. As the containment field began to flicker ominously, Krill's telepathic abilities picked up something else, faint but unmistakable. More rifts, the small being chirped anxiously. Not just here, all through Academy. All starting soon. The implications hit them all at once. This wasn't isolated to their lab. Someone had similar devices placed throughout Acaliadinia, all programmed to create dimensional rifts simultaneously. We need to warn everyone, Ember said, skin blanching to stark white with fear. And we need to stop these rifts, Maya added, already pulling up the Academy's structural schematics on her tablet. Her mind raced with connections and possibilities, the chaotic human neural patterns that her alien classmates sometimes mocked now working at full speed. I think I know how, she said finally, looking up at her team with determination. But we'll need to move fast, and we'll need to work together in ways we haven't before. As the containment field gave its first warning crack, the 6 diverse beings huddled around Maya's hastily drawn plans, the fate of Acaliademia suddenly resting on the shoulders of its most unlikely team. The revolution. Administrator Vex Lori, you need to initiate an immediate evacuation of the Academy. Maya's voice echoed through the administrative chamber as their team burst in, interrupting a faculty meeting. The willowy administrator rose slowly, compound eyes fixing Maya with a cold stare. Human Chen. This interruption is... There's no time. Talus interjected, their bioluminescence pulsing with urgent patterns. Multiple dimensional rifts are forming throughout the campus. Our calculations indicate catastrophic space-time destabilization within the hour. The gathered faculty, representatives of the galaxy's most advanced species, exchanged skeptical glances. We detected an anomaly in your laboratory, said a Quarthy professor, their insectoid mandibles clicking dismissively. It has been contained and is being investigated. There is no evidence of additional disturbances. Your containment won't hold, Zix warned, crystal facets flashing anxiously. And there are at least 7 more devices placed strategically throughout Acaliademia. We've mapped their probable locations based on energy fluctuations. Maya stepped forward, holding up her tablet displaying the Academy's schematics with pulsing red indicators. The pattern forms a dimensional resonance array. When all nodes activate, they'll create a cascading effect that will tear open the fabric of reality across the entire campus. Administrator Vex Lori studied the display with narrowed compound eyes. These claims are extraordinary, and they come from a team led by. Their gaze lingered on Maya, a human whose species barely understands basic warp mechanics. With respect, Administrator, Maya replied firmly, this isn't about species or status. Lives are at stake. We need to evacuate now and form teams to disable these devices. A tense silence filled the chamber before the Quarthy professor stepped forward. If such devices existed, our security systems would have detected them. They stated with absolute certainty. The Quarthy designed those systems personally. Leth's massive arthropod form shifted forward, mandibles twitching with barely restrained anger. Unless the Quarthy also designed the devices. The accusation hung in the air like a thunderclap. The Quarthy representatives bristled visibly, their segmented bodies tensing. You dare accuse? We have evidence. Devar interrupted, their gaseous form swirling intensely within their containment field. They projected a holographic display showing energy signatures. These patterns bear distinctive markers of Quarthy quantum technology. "This is preposterous," hissed the lead Quarthy representative. "Why would we endanger Ecaliademia?" "Because you're losing," Maya said quietly, the realization dawning on her. "Your team isn't ahead in the challenge like everyone thinks. You've dominated for 3 centuries, but this year, multiple teams are outperforming you." Embra's skin rippled with patterns of shock and understanding. The Quarthy's standing in the Confederation depends on their intellectual supremacy. If they lose the challenge, the lead Quarthy's compound eyes flashed dangerously. Speculative slander. "We will not." A distant boom interrupted them, followed by an ominous tremor that shook the entire chamber. Warning alerts began blaring throughout the Academy. "Dimensional breach detected in Laboratory Sector 7, announced the Academy's AI system. Structural integrity compromised." Administrator Vexlority hesitated only briefly before activating the emergency protocols. "Begin evacuation procedures. All students and faculty to designated safe zones." As chaos erupted across the Academy, Maya's team huddled quickly in a corner of the chamber. "The evacuation won't be fast enough," Maya said, studying the energy readings on her tablet. The fluctuations were intensifying more rapidly than they'd anticipated. "We have maybe 30 minutes before all the rifts fully manifest. We need to neutralize the devices simultaneously," Talus said, inner light pulsing with calculations. "Otherwise, the remaining ones will simply accelerate their reaction to compensate." "We'll need to split up," Maya decided, looking at her diverse teammates. Each brought unique abilities that would be essential for what came next. 1 person to each device location. "There are 7 devices and 6 of us," Leth pointed out, compound eyes blinking in sequence. Maya nodded grimly. "I'll take the 2 closest ones. I've memorized the shutdown procedure." Krill chirped anxiously, small paws gripping Maya's sleeve. "Too dangerous. Human physiology fragile. And human minds are adaptable," Maya replied with a determined smile. "We specialize in impossible situations." They quickly divided the locations, cinched their communication devices, and prepared to separate. "If anyone fails, we all fail," Zix reminded them, their crystalline form glinting with solemn light. "The entire dimensional plane could collapse." "Then we won't fail," Maya said simply. As they dispersed, running through corridors now filled with panicking students and faculty, she felt a strange calm descend over her. All her life, she'd been told humans were too primitive, too emotional, too chaotic to compete on the galactic stage. Now those very traits might be what saved everyone. Maya reached the first device location, a maintenance junction beneath the quantum physics wing. The space was cramped and dimly lit, humming with the ominous energy of the partially activated Rift device. It looked superficially like their team's prototype, but had been modified with malicious intent, designed not to harmonize with dimensional planes, but to violently tear them apart. She worked quickly, using the knowledge gained from their own research to identify the critical control nodes. The device fought her, its programmed safeguards attempting to accelerate when tampered with. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she carefully bypassed security measures, her hands steady despite the growing dimensional distortions around her. "Status report," she called into her communicator as she worked. "Approaching target," came Leth's clicking response. "Device located," Talus reported, their voice distorted by interference. "Beginning shutdown sequence." Encountering resistance, Devar's voice swirled with tension. "Security drones defending the device." Maya finished disabling the first device just as a violent tremor shook the maintenance junction, nearly throwing her against a wall of exposed circuitry. The dimensional fabric was beginning to tear more severely elsewhere in the Academy. "We need to move faster," she urged, already running toward her second target location. "Krill, how's your telepathic jamming working on the device's neural interface?" "Effective," came the chirped reply. Device fighting back. Strange consciousness embedded. Maya filed that information away as she sprinted through increasingly distorted corridors. Space itself was beginning to warp, creating unsettling visual effects where distant objects seemed impossibly close and nearby walls stretched into infinity. The evacuation was in full swing, with transport pods launching from every platform. But thousands remained inside the massive Academy complex. Her second target was located in a primary power distribution hub, a critical location that would maximize damage when the rift fully formed. As she arrived, she found the hub already beginning to distort, equipment melting into impossible shapes as reality itself became malleable. The device here was larger, more sophisticated, and further along in its activation sequence. A swirling vortex of energy had already begun to form above it, pulling surrounding matter into its spiraling maw. "This one's nearly critical," she reported, dropping to her knees beside it and pulling out her toolkit. The shutdown procedure would be more complex here, and she had minutes at most. As Maya worked, reports came in from her teammates. 3 devices successfully disabled, 2 still being worked on, and Devar still fighting through security systems to reach theirs. Quarthy security overrides are impressive, the gaseous entity transmitted, their voice strained. Designed specifically to prevent tampering. Use the Academy's maintenance override, Maya suggested, remembering a backdoor protocol she'd discovered while studying the campus systems. Authorization sequence Gamma 7 Epsilon. She continued her own battle with the device, fingers flying over control surfaces, bypassing failsafes, redirecting energy flows. The dimensional rift above her grew larger, its event horizon now 3 meters across and expanding. The pull was becoming physical, loose objects lifting from surfaces, drifting toward the swirling vortex. Maya anchored herself to a support strut with one arm while working with the other. The final sequence required perfect timing. A complete power shutdown followed by a precise recalibration of the quantum harmonics. All devices must be deactivated simultaneously, Talus reminded them. The final shutdown must be coordinated to the microsecond. One by one, the team reported their readiness. All except Devar, who was still fighting through the Quarthy security systems. Almost there, Devar transmitted, their voice barely audible through the growing interference. "Need more time." Maya looked up at the expanding rift above her. They didn't have more time. The Academy's structural integrity alarms were screaming now, warning of imminent catastrophic failure. "Zix," Maya called. "Can you boost Devar's signal strength? Use your crystalline structure as an amplifier." "Attempting," came the reply. Moments later, Devar's signal cleared. "Ready now," they reported. "But my containment field is failing in these conditions. I cannot guarantee my continued functionality after shutdown." Maya's heart clenched at the implication. Devar's gaseous form required the containment field to maintain cohesion in standard atmospheric conditions. They were risking their own existence to save everyone else. "On my mark," Maya said, setting the final sequence. 3, 2, 1, now. 6 beings across Acaliadinia activated their shutdown sequences simultaneously. For a terrifying moment, nothing seemed to happen. The rifts continued to expand, reality continued to distort, and Maya feared they had failed. Then, like a wave rippling outward, a neutralizing energy pulse spread from each device. The rifts didn't close immediately. They collapsed in on themselves, releasing tremendous energy in controlled implosions that shook the Academy to its foundations. Maya was thrown backward by the shockwave from her device, slamming against a wall as the power hub plunged into darkness. Emergency systems kicked in seconds later, bathing everything in pulsing red light. Her ears rang, and she tasted blood. A split lip from the impact, but she was alive. "Report," she croaked into her communicator. "Everyone okay?" One by one, her teammates responded. All had survived the implosions, though not without injury. Leth had a damaged exoskeleton. Embra's skin patterns were disrupted, stuck in a state of shock. Krill reported severe telepathic feedback, but maintained consciousness. Zix had suffered fractured crystalline segments. Only Duvar was silent. Duvar, Maya called, dragging herself to her feet. Duvar, respond. Static answered her. Then Talus's voice broke through. I'm nearest to Duvar's position. Moving to investigate now. Maya made her way out of the power hub, navigating through twisted corridors where reality was slowly reasserting its proper form. The academy was damaged but standing, and most importantly, the dimensional cascade had been prevented. They regrouped at their laboratory, which now looked like it had been hit by a localized hurricane. Equipment was scattered everywhere, workstations overturned, and their original prototype lay in pieces across the floor. Talus arrived last, supporting what appeared to be a damaged containment field generator. Within it, Duvar's gaseous forms swirled weakly, their usual vibrant patterns dim and sluggish. Containment field integrity at 17%, Talus reported grimly. They transferred most of their primary consciousness into the field's support systems to maintain cohesion long enough to complete the shutdown. Can they be stabilized? Maya asked, already clearing space for the generator. Unknown, Talus replied. Their species has never been studied under these conditions. Maya looked around at her battered team. A human, a crystalline entity, a color shifter, a telepathic fuzzball, an arthropoid warrior, and a Helvan, all working to save a gaseous consciousness. 6 months ago, she couldn't have imagined such a group existing, let alone working together to save an entire academy. We'll find a way, she said firmly. That's what we do. 2 weeks later, the Great Hall of Acalia was filled to capacity for an unprecedented ceremony. The damage from the dimensional incident had been largely repaired, though certain areas still showed signs of spatial distortion that might never fully normalize. Administrator Vex Lori stood at the central podium, their willowy form rigid with formal dignity.